Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Real Life with Tony and Jen. We've been talking about some things, and one of them was why are people gonna want to watch this?
Listen, watch.
Listen, watch. So it's important that we know that why do people want to watch or listen to the Real Life with Tony and Jen podcast. And we decided not to really think about that because people are either going to listen or they're not going to listen. So we're just going to record some content, and hopefully the goal with this podcast is to help people that are married.
And in general. Yeah.
And in general.
Yeah.
We feel that a lot of people, and this is based on experience. We're not just randomly, grabbing this stuff out of thin air. We've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. We know a lot of people. We know a lot of married people. We have been married for over 22 years. So we've got a lot of experience, got a lot of topics, a lot of things we've talked about. And that's the one thing that we do is we talk a lot. Mm-hmm. I think we probably talk more than most.
Yeah. We've been together, though, for 28 years.
Well, let's put it this way. I met Jennifer when she was 19, and she's going to be 49. So do the math. It's 30 years. But you guys know from a prior podcast, there was a 1.5-year breakup, which was much needed. But so tonight, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects. Do you know what that is?
Of course.
What is it?
Sex.
Yeah. So, it's a great subject. So we got into I got into a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine. Me and a couple of guys were just hanging out one night in our old man cave, smoking cigars. I'm going to leave their names out of it because it's not important. And one of my friends he's got a really interesting way of thinking or talking about things and putting some perspective on things. And that particular night, he brought up a subject that I never really thought about. Kind of blew my mind. And it's a conversation that will go down as a classic because I think it opened our eyes to a lot of things that we don't necessarily think about. So here was the conversation. This is the conversation between me and 3 other friends of mine. Basically, it was single sex, when you're not married, and then married sex. And let me go ahead and say this right off the bat. I know we live in the real world. I know that most people are having sex before they get married. We're not saying we condone that as Christians. We're just saying we don't want to judge anyone, but we know in the real world this is most of the time this is what's happening. It's very rare that people get married and have never had sex before. So we're gonna throw that out there. So this was what was brought up, was that for some reason when you get married, and I'm not sure if we've experienced this.
We have not experienced this.
I don't think so. So the point my friend was making, I'm trying not to say his name. I want to say his name. Was why is it that after you get married, sex becomes different? Like it's no longer a free for all. It's no longer anything goes. And I personally believe that's because, unfortunately, sex is made out to be dirty, especially in the Christian world. It's almost like a dirty thing. They don't ever really talk about it. It's wrong. So I think what happens is when people get married, and I'm gonna go here. It's mostly the women. Would you agree?
I don't know. I was trying to process what you said before about they think it's dirty. I don't necessarily think that I thought it was dirty. I'm just talking in general. I just don't think it's talked about much. Now, when we went through our premarital, It was what, like 10 or 12 weeks long. It was definitely talked about.
Right. But I think as you're growing up in certain circles, it's not talked about. And if something's not talked about, it's usually meant it's bad or it's something that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what happens is when certain individuals get married, they think, okay, I'm married now.
We can't do this.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do this.
But when they were single,
it was being done.
It was being done.
Right.
Here's the example that a friend of mine, one of the guys in the room, gave me. He said, listen, if all four of us went out right now, we went out to a bar, we could probably pick up some women. We could probably go back to their home or our home. And anything would probably happen. Like anything goes. There would be no inhibitions. That basically you could get freaky. You could get freaky. Like the basically what he was saying was the women that we would meet, that we have no attachment to, have no commitment to, and I think he's being real. I think he what he said had a lot of truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so why is that when there's no commitment that it's a free for all? You could get freaky. You could do things you normally aren't doing. And he says, but then you get married, and suddenly the woman that you're committed to, the woman that you are saying, I'm in this for the long haul, now she doesn't want to do certain things.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't experienced that in our relationship, so I can't really talk about that, but I do think it's weird. I mean, obviously when you're married, you can do whatever you want with your spouse, and you should be able to feel free to do those things. So
the point he was making was, I am committed to you now. Why aren't you doing the things that we did when we weren't married?
mm-hmm.
Before marriage, it was freaky time all the time, anytime, anywhere. Now that we're married, it's suddenly all of that goes away.
Obviously, having kids and stuff can change different times, but it shouldn't change what you're doing with your spouse.
Right. But I think, again, this is an issue. And once again, the goal of the podcast is to get people to talk, because when you talk, things can improve.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's probably someone out there. There's probably a guy out there right now going, holy crap, he's right. Before my wife and I got married, she didn't care where, when, what time. And now I got restrictions. And which makes no sense, because I'm committed now. I'm in this for the long haul. You would think that would come with all the benefits. That would come with, holding nothing back. I think, and I gotta, like I said, I'm not calling out any names, but it was an issue for a couple of men in the room that night. That's why it came up. And I'll tell you another thing that was, go ahead. It was.
Well, can we go into detail with the story that was told?
No.
If we don't use those names?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we cannot go into that, because they'll definitely know who we're talking about.
Okay. I mean, we're not calling them out.
Doesn't matter. They'll figure it
Okay.
out. So we're not going to talk about it. We're going to keep, that's because it's not important. But I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the person buying something? That one?
Yes.
Okay, we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay.
No way. But I will talk about this. So we kind of went around the room, and maybe this is how the conversation got started. We went around the room, and you got to remember at the time, this is 10
8 years ago?
no,
10 years
no,
ago?
12 years ago. We kind of went around the room, and remember, I got to throw this out there. I'm at least 20 years older than these guys.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm older than the other three guys in the room. And basically the question came up was, how often are you having sex? and I was really surprised, because like I said, these guys are 20 years younger than me. At least somewhere around there. 10, 15, 20 years younger than me. And went around the room, and and these guys are having sex maybe once a week. Maybe 2 or 3 times a month. And
That's very unhealthy if you're married. It just is.
Well, and I mean, yeah, when you got young kids, we experience that.
None of them have young kids. None of them had young kids. That's just an
Yeah, they did.
unhealthy.
Yeah, they did. One of them just turned 16, babe. Yeah. So one of them just, so they had younger children. And I'm not saying that's an excuse, but that can be, listen, we used to have to tell our daughter that we were making an important phone call.
Right. I mean, our daughter, we were like, we're going in the bedroom. We have to make an important phone call. You cannot knock on the door.
And by the way, that works like gold.
It did. She did not knock on the door. She never came. She knew that mommy and daddy had an important phone call.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
So that's a bonus. Y'all can use that if you need it. But that was before iPads. That was before iPads. So we couldn't just give it. You can give your kid an iPad now, and they're busy for an hour. Not that it takes an hour. But basically went around the room, and it was like once or twice a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month. Then it got to me, and they thought I was lying when I said, roughly 3 to 4 times a week. And then, of course, my wife walked in the room, and I asked her the question without even looking at her, and she told them the same thing I told them. But the main thing is, why does that happen? Like, what happens when you become married? And I'm talking to the women, because I don't think this happens with men. I think men. I
think some men, but it's definitely more of a woman issue, I think.
I agree. So what is it about getting married and then suddenly I'm married now, I can no longer be freaky?
I'm not sure where that comes into play, but I think that women are they're not wired the same as you guys. So of course, if the husband isn't.
Yeah, but if you're getting freaky before the commitment.
I agree.
Right.
It's the bait and switch. I don't think that's right at all.
It's a bait and switch. That's what it is.
It is.
I don't even know if it's a bait and switch, because I mean, you're married now. I think there's a switch that goes off in a woman's brain that says, well, I'm married now. I can no longer.
Or I don't have to do that. Yeah. It's bizarre to me.
It's a good one. I don't have to do that.
Yeah, I'm married. I got him now. You hear that term a lot.
Well, that's another podcast, but yeah, it's the lack of enthusiasm, the lack of trying. I'm married now, so why do I have to try? That's a whole different podcast. But I think that I don't necessarily think it's much as a bait and switch, because I don't think it's intentional in certain situations. I think that there are women out there who, for some reason, before marriage, they don't have to. Here. Let me say this. I think when you're not married, you're not worried. This is going to be gold right here. You're not worried what he's going to think of you. You don't care whether or not he thinks you're dirty.
Yeah, but clearly, if you're in a relationship for a while and then you guys decide to get married.
I think once you get married, for the women, they don't want to do the dirty stuff anymore, because they're afraid that their husband is going to look at them.
I don't even
in a different light.
What's dirty. That's the thing to me. It's just bizarre to me.
Well, hold on. I mean, there's things that we do in our marriage now,
right,
that we didn't do before.
But that's just because we weren't really aware or didn't understand things.
It's a whole other podcast, by the way, that one.
Yeah,
that's going to be a good one.
But it's not because neither one of us were willing. You know what I'm saying? We just didn't.
We didn't know there were things available that could enhance things. But I think that's the switch. I think I'm not going to do the things I used to do, because now I want my husband to not think I'm a freak, or I want my husband to respect me. He's not going to respect me if I let him do all those things I used to let him do before we got married, which is, listen,
That's so weird to me.
well, that's why we're doing the podcast.
It's so foreign to me.
That's why we're doing that's why we're doing the podcast right now, because
ladies, if you're thinking that, that's ridiculous. Your husband wants that. All of that.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it. So don't hold back. Don't hold back. Now, I'll give you. Man, there's so many situations, but I don't want anyone to think I know we're not going to specifically.
If these are just examples, we're not using anybody's name, honey. Just, I mean, obviously we can't go into detail.
Yeah, right.
We get a lot of people that obviously do talk to us a lot because we have been married and we have gone through a lot of things. So we have a lot of examples we can use and,
Right. I personally think that there's just a unfortunate, not even saying all women, but when my friend brought this up, it was like a light bulb went off, and it really got us thinking. And I was like, dude, you're blowing my mind right now. Why is it that, you can meet a woman and not have any strings attached, and it's a total freak show. But once you make a commitment to some women, not all women, once you make a commitment, then all that freaky stuff goes out the window. That's a wild one.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not really sure how much further we can take this, but I think
I think we've said all we can say.
I think we can say all we can say. We're just, I don't understand why people do that.
I don't know.
It's very interesting. I think it goes.
I do believe, though, there are women out there that will say they don't have to do that anymore. They got him. And it's almost, and I do feel that is a form of bait and switch, because they knew they were going to be this way, but once they have him, they don't have to do this anymore.
Right. I heard a great saying when I was younger. Women marry men in hopes that they change. Men marry women in hopes that they never change. And that's usually because before it was a free-for-all, anything goes. And then suddenly they get married and they become prude. Is that still a word? I mean, is that prude? You know what most people think what prude means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not, they can Google it.
They can Google it. Yeah. So hopefully this short podcast is going to open the door for some much needed conversations, because I have a feeling that there are a multitude of couples out there. And I know a lot of men are going to listen to this podcast, and these men are going to be like, yeah, what's that all about? Why was I getting certain things before marriage, and now I only get them on my birthday? And I do know an individual who only got a certain thing. Starts with a
would you?
I was gonna say starts with a B.
Behave. Behave.
Ends with a
Tony.
Yeah. Okay. I'm behaving. I'm B. Get it? B. This guy only got it on his birthday, which is sad. So I don't, but I don't know if she. Yeah, I think she did it probably a lot more often. But once they get married, can I, before we end this, why, ladies, what are you doing? Why you did it? Not, hey, maybe you didn't do it before, or maybe you did do it before. Maybe you did it a lot in the beginning of the marriage. But why would you stop doing that? Why would you? We don't want you to stop doing that.
I mean, if there's an issue with anything, you have to discuss it with your spouse. If it's something that's like an issue with him, you need to let him know.
Maybe he needs to clean up the area.
It doesn't matter.
Maybe it's hygiene.
I feel that women, well, I don't feel this way, but I do feel there are some women worried that they're going to hurt their spouse's feeling by discussing. I will tell Tony anything. Your breath stinks. I don't like the way you smell. I need you to, that's just how I am, because he wants to be.
Yeah. Pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'll do whatever you need me to do to make those things happen, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and leave you guys with that one. We're gonna leave y'all with that. So I guess to go over it one more time. Like, if you did it before and you did it in the beginning, why aren't you doing it? Why don't you continue to do it? Okay, I'm gonna end with this. I promise you. I promise you. And this is gonna be a whole other topic on our podcast, but this is how I feel, and I feel very strongly about this. We have been married for 22 years. If you're married for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and your sex life, as long as you're healthy, you've got no issues, no conditions, no problems, you're a perfectly healthy or somewhat healthy individual, and everything works properly, there is absolutely no reason why your sex life isn't better as the years go by. Because I can tell you right now, we're good. I'll text Jen the next day after, and I'd be like, "What was that?"
Really, babe?
Yeah. I'm just saying. Like, there should be text the next day, like, "What was that yesterday or last night?" I don't know if that's happened with people that have been married for more than 10, 20, 10, 15, 20 years. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it opens up the door for some much needed conversations regarding that area. Mm-hmm. And women, if you're doing that,
and men,
but mostly women, don't stop doing that. You should continue to do all the things you did in the beginning. All right? What do you think?
I think you're right.
I think I am right. I know men want to hear this. I know a lot of men are really like, "Dude, who is this guy? I want to talk to this. This guy needs to come to my house and talk to my wife." Anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. You want to add anything before we
say
goodbye?
Nope. I'm good.
All right. Peace out. We love you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
does Jesus.
That's your.
That's mine.
You say that. I don't say that.
Peace out.